No. Ugh. I gotta do it this way.
Good evening.
Facebook Live. It's our first time.
You gotta watch this from home.
Good evening.
Might not.
We're thrilled you're here with us this evening. I know some of you, when you pulled in, probably pinched yourself and said, can this really be happening? That I'm talking to the school about my little baby getting ready to go off to college. We talked a lot about it as they've gone through high school. We are thrilled that they're seniors with us. We had our administrative meetings with them today and challenged them to make a difference, not only for other people, but for themselves. And told them that no burden is too great, and they can accomplish anything they want to, and not be afraid of failure. I think they were receptive. This class has always been super respectful. We're really excited at what they can achieve when they leave us. The counseling staff has poured countless hours into educating themselves of the college application process and colleges and trends in the United States for college. They go out a lot. They meet with deans of admissions. They call deans of admissions. They advocate for every kid in this building. They do it every day for hundreds of kids. So they are the experts. So without standing up here and blowing smoke at you, I'm going to turn it over to the experts that you will get a lot out of this presentation. That you will feel confident that your child will be prodded and led through the correct process. Then after they are done, our PTO parents want to talk to you just for a brief few seconds. So it's my privilege to introduce Mrs. Ann Delahanty-King.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. Wow, this is a great crowd. We're super excited. We've spent almost a week with your kids so far this school year, and it seems to have, despite the bridge, which is the big talk always, every day. Is the bridge still closed? Are we on the bridge schedule or the no bridge schedule? Which schedule are we on? So we're still on the no bridge working schedule. So which? Oh, sorry. Forgot not to bring that up. He's been super grumpy this whole year so far. So we'll just pretend like I didn't say that. As Mr. Mater said, I am Ann Delahanty-Koenig. I am one of the counselors, and I am speaking on behalf of the entire department tonight. We, some of the counselors are here, but just so you know, all of the counselors, we receive the same training, we go to the same meetings, we meet together, and when we are meeting with your kids in small groups or large groups, we are all talking from the same agenda, and they are hearing the same information. So I'm just the one that draws the short straw more than the other ones, and up here more often. We also have something kind of exciting tonight, but if I tell you this, you have to promise not to leave. Promise? Okay. We are broadcasting on Facebook Live for the first time ever. Mrs. Brenner, one of the counselors, is over here with this little funky camera thingy that clips onto the chair, and so I'm being taped right now, and I just remembered that, so I'll straighten up a little bit. I'm going to quickly introduce on the slide the counselor and the alphabet breakdown, just in case you are new or in case you forgot who your child's counselor is, and there you have it. So we are broken down by alphabet. Some of your kids have been with the same counselor all 4 years. Some of them have been sort of victims of the alphabet shift and new counselors and other things. So there we are. So if you need to contact us via email, it's the same email address protocol as anything else in the Sycamore District. Last name, first initial @sycamoreschools.org. We also have 2 student assistance counselors. They are part of the counseling department. They do not have a student caseload. They work with students in other areas, kind of helping them solve problems, work through things, provide support, find resources, and other things that they may need. Mr. Millette also does double time. He is part-time student assistance counselor, and he is part-time in the post-secondary planning center as well. He is the person who is responsible for scheduling the college reps, meeting with the reps, talking to your kids about different things, helping them get logged into Naviance, bringing special programs to Sycamore High School from the colleges so that our students have opportunities that a lot of other kids in local high schools don't get. As a result, he has built a really good network with several schools in the area, and they are always wanting to come to Sycamore and always wanting to talk to your sons and daughters. So now might also be a good time to tell you that I discovered how to put backgrounds on my slides, and I just discovered this yesterday. Sorry, I'm gonna just, force you to look at it one more time. So we're going with a puzzle theme tonight. Because why? Well, I thought it was really cool, and we're kind of putting together some of the final pieces of that high school puzzle as they get ready to leave all of us and kind of fly away from the nest in just a year. So we are now very active on Twitter and Facebook, so I cannot tell you the information that has already been pushed out via Twitter and Facebook. If you are, last year we were just Twitter, and then we realized that our demographic, I'm one of those two, we are more active on Facebook than we are on Twitter and all those other things. So we won't be Snapchatting you any counseling information. We will strictly be on Twitter and Facebook, and also this year, every other Monday, we will push out an email from the counseling department that is chock full of everything that we can possibly share with you that we feel is very relevant, very important, and very interesting to you as a parent of all grades, 9 through 12. Early in the year, a lot of the focus will be on college information, deadlines, different types of things along those lines, but also ACT, SAT information, different career pieces that we talk to your kids about or think might be interesting. So keep a lookout for that. We decided to go every other Monday because we wanted to make sure that you weren't getting it so often that it was just like another one of those weekly emails or daily emails that didn't mean a lot. So we decided we'd make you wait for it every 2 weeks, and but also make sure that it's very updated and very relevant. So I covered most of that right there. Also on the Sycamore High School website, under the counselor page, we will post a lot of other information that is especially important to you this year and to your kids this year as a parent or a senior. Scholarship information, other things that we need them to know and can only be found there. Also the announcements at school, emails from Mr. Mader. It's almost one of those things where we had to kind of sit down and go, okay, are we doing too much, or are there so many avenues that people don't know what to pay attention to, they don't know where to look, they don't know when it matters and when it doesn't matter. So if I were you, knowing what we are doing, I would look for the Monday emails every other Monday, and I would follow us on Facebook. So some of you might be coming to the high school as a first-time senior parent. Can I have a show of hands of those of you? Okay, tall and proud. Come on, put them up there. Okay, everybody else who doesn't have their hand up, they need you. If you've already done this before, look around and see who the rookie senior parents are and lend a hand through this process. We think of us, your child's counselor, as your and their GPS through the high school process, kind of helping them and you connect the dots between where they are or where they started when they came to us as 8th graders and where they're going when they leave us a year from now. We'll get back to who they are in a minute. So as you're sitting here, and especially if you are a first-time senior parent getting ready to go through the college process, I can tell you that a lot has changed. But I can also tell you that, on the other hand, nothing has changed. The main thing that's changed is the vehicle in which the documents are delivered to the college, how their transcripts get there, how they apply, how they do everything. It's all electronic. It wasn't that way looking around. It wasn't that way when we were applying to college. Most of us in this room as parents, we sent away for an application packet, and then we waited and hoped that somebody opened our request, and then it got sent to us, this application, and then we filled it out, with pens. You might want to talk to your kids about what those are. And then we sent it away again, and we hoped that at some point, months later, we would hear back from them and that we would get into the schools that we wanted to go to. So that's all different. But what's the same is it's still a very huge emotional investment on the part of your child and you, because you want them more than anything to meet their goals or reach their goals or get into certain colleges. Some of you might hope that your kids don't get into certain colleges depending on the price tag of some of those schools. That'll make that decision a little bit easier. But it's still a very emotionally charged time in their life and in your life and in your life as a family. So things can get a little crazy. We're getting ready to meet with them tomorrow, and we're going to talk to them about the same things we're talking to you about tonight. So typically what we try to do is on the day that we're going to meet with your kids in school, we try to have our parent meetings lined up to be that same evening, so we can tell you all the things that we told them. But this year, tomorrow night is the junior high, I think, and maybe the green school parent activities, and that involves some of you. So we moved this up so you get to hear it first. Awesome, you know. And they have to wait. And I'm sure that when you get home tonight, they're going to be like, come on, give me the handouts. Like, what did she talk about? Like, tell us now. We want to post it all over social media now. They'll be like, oh, you were where? Oh, you were in school? Okay. So as we get ready, just kind of brace yourself sometimes, not for this presentation, although it's pretty riveting, but for the process that you're about to go through this year. Because it is emotional, and I've been in this job position for over 16 years as a counselor. But last year, my son was a senior, and this past Thursday, I just took him off to college and said goodbye to my only child. While I've been doing it with everyone else's for all these years, it rang true, and it will be something that will actually probably help me be a little bit better counselor, having gone through it myself just recently. So who they are, these creatures that you live with, growing up in such an interesting time, because they really are part of, well, besides your precious pumpkins and very special snowflakes, they are Generation Z. Digital natives, screenagers, whatever little fancy catchy names they've been given, but they really are digital natives. And they really do use their resources differently than you and I do. We have to think about it like, oh, I could probably use my phone for that, or oh, there's an app for that, or oh, I could whatever. They don't ever go through that thought process. It's kind of like an extra arm. It's kind of like something that is just sort of innate in them now. They can be together alone, they could be sitting in their bedroom and with their crowd somewhere else, or involved in something that's going on out there in the world. They can be alone when they're together, when they're on their device, when they're texting, when they're searching, when they're listening, when they're doing whatever. But really the internet technology, social media shape their lives. We don't like it. It makes us feel kind of icky sometimes, or it makes us feel like, oh, are they going to be all right? And how are they going to talk to people? And are they going to be able to make eye contact, like when they're talking to another person? And will they know how to answer the phone and actually, not just wait for the text to come in or whatever? And so we worry about that, and I did too. And we still will, and I will still continue to do so. But I will tell you, these kids, they're so amazing and savvy and awesome. And I know their phones are in their device, their faces are in their devices a lot. But they do know how to communicate, and they have gigantic hearts, and they are very responsible, and they are incredibly intelligent. So we'll just cross our fingers and hope for the best. They're big-time multitaskers, and they use, as I said, their resources very differently than we do. I need a quiet room. If I have to focus on something, they can have music on, be doing something on their phone, be doing something on their computer. They're just used to it, some of them, many of them. So we've raised them, we're responsible for all of this, but they're very opinionated, they're very confident, they feel very special, they feel very goal-oriented. They think email is formal communication, and they think text is just, like the informal stuff. They even emote electronically. So the emojis and the whatever, and look at how that's changed, actually, interestingly. My son let me know the other day that when I use an emoji, I don't have to use it like 4 times just to show him that I'm really happy or I'm really sad, or I'm crying huge tears. Like, I guess 4 emojis of the same thing is the same as 1. I'm learning that. But I was like, but how do you know? Like, how do you know that I'm really sad about that if it's just 1? He like rolled his eyes, and I'm like, well, if there was a roll your eye emoji, would you just only respond 1 of those to what I just said, or would you want to put 4? I'm just saying, so. Anyway, their attention spans, they expect to control what, where, and when they learn. And actually, this is a huge deal for us as educators, because not only are the colleges scrambling to kind of meet their learning needs on a lot of different levels, but so are we. And right here at Sycamore High School, I mean, we have a very innovative principal and administrative staff who's constantly looking at what kinds of things do we need to do? What do we need to change? Do we need to keep doing it the way we are? Is what we're doing not good enough? Could something else be better? And we're changing a lot of classrooms to fit the 21st century classroom and a lot of this blended learning that you hear about, which is blending technology with more traditional education, and where the teacher is used to being a sage on the stage and now is becoming more of a guide on the side, not diminishing their role at all, actually making it much bigger, almost like an education coach kind of thing, because they can find it. So if they're not getting it when they want it and how they want it, they can find it. They're going to go out and get it, and they're going to do it their way. And so schools, not just at the university level, but also at the high school level and younger grades, and you'll see it. I mean, you have younger kids in the district, you're going to see it change a lot in the next few years. And they do, they want choices. They share everything, they collaborate, they're very collaborative learners. We're a Google school, so we share everything. We share everything. But if I hear I shared it with you once a day, I hear it 4,700 times a day. I shared that with you. I can't even keep track of all the sharing that is going on in my computer these days. So your kids are the second largest graduating class demographically in the United States, second only to 2016, which was last year. That was the spike, that was the peak in high school seniors. That has been coming for a long time. And by you being second, you're not losing, trust me, you're winning. Just a few less kids going after the same number of spots on the college campus. Over 3.6 million high school graduates this year, and 90% of them or more plan on pursuing post-secondary education right out of high school. Many of them will at some point later. They're on track to becoming the most educated generation in history, and colleges are trying like crazy to meet their needs. That's why you're seeing new dorms go up. That's why you're seeing a huge emergence in branch campuses, trying to get them in, get them for a year, and then promise them the main campus the second year. Community colleges, all those types of things just are exploding right now. So you will see, as your son and daughters, and I'm sure many of you have been getting mail for over a year or two, ever since they took the PSAT, really, because that's when they got on, that's one of the first times that they got on all those mailing lists. And based on how well they did on the PSAT determines a lot of the mail that you get. Because different colleges and universities are buying those lists based on certain percentile ranks and scores to try to appeal to the types of students they want. So the rest of the presentation is going to be a little bit weird as you look at some of the slides, because they're worded not so much for you but for them, because they're actually just pasted in slides from the presentation that the counselors are giving tomorrow. So we kind of, I'm going to give you a little bit of a shorter version of it, but I'm going to give you the main gist of what we tell them. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the handouts. We're just going to go around and take turns reading the handouts out loud. Just kidding. We're really not. We're really not even hardly going to talk about it all. You can put those on the kitchen table and share in that joy later on your own. So when they found out, I mean, they were just, that this presentation was coming. I mean, we couldn't, they were just, I can't remember if they were jumping or throwing themselves off bridges, but it was crazy, and they're ready for it tomorrow. So if they can't sleep tonight, don't blame them. They're not on their phones. They really can't sleep, because this is going to be real tomorrow. This is what's happening. So we want you to partner with them in this process, okay? We do not want you to do it for them. This is big. This is big. This is like parent to parent right now. Because here's the thing, it is all online. for them. But if you do, you have to think about what's happening here. You're basically taking charge of something that they're getting ready to move away from home and go spend thousands of dollars and be independent and responsible in doing. So really, this is a good test. If how they get through this process, this college application process, it's kind of a good test as to how much they really want it and how ready they might really be, okay? So we as counselors, as principals, as teachers in this building, want you to partner with your kids in this process, but don't let frustration allow you to take it over. Okay, so again, you're reading this as a student, so senior year. These are the things that we tell them. We want you to know what we tell them, because even though we know they come home from school every day and they have these really like super deep and insightful conversations with you at dinner about everything that they learned in school and all the cool things that their teachers did with them and how much they love us all and they can't wait for the alarm to go off in the morning and come back and do it all over again, we wanted to make sure that you had just a little bit of a grasp on what we talked to them about. So again, we will be talking to them about, you guys, seriously, this is real, it happens, it's coming at you, it's very quick, and you need a very solid plan of execution. Here's your 3 biggies in the college application process, college admissions, and we've been talking to them about this since 8th grade. So the main 3 factors in admissions are GPA, ACT, SAT scores, and the rigor of their high school curriculum, especially in senior year. So we'll kind of go through all of that. But the colleges are basically accepting them or denying them on their GPA of 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. But they're paying very special attention to the rigor or the curriculum of classes that they're taking in their senior year. If you think, some of you in here think back to high school, senior year was like, whatever, you know, it's when you had fun, it's when you finally had fun. Flip that almost to 180 because it's completely the opposite. Senior year really, I mean, it's a cool year and it's special, but it's not a time where they can kind of let go academically. So your grades in senior year. So what we tell them is some of you are going to apply in September, October, and you're going to hear back in like a couple weeks. Get ready for that. Because it is electronic and because colleges are now competing for your kids, a lot of times like the first one in wins. So they apply and in 2 or 3 weeks they actually get a decision. For those of you who have kids who are applying to some of the bigger schools, Ohio State, UC, whatever, Miami, or some of the very selective schools, you'll wait months, just depending. But what we tell them is you get that letter in October or November or December, and you don't get to slow down, because what happens is your final transcript gets sent to the college, and the college will review to make sure there aren't any major discrepancies. Like, don't come to the counselor at the semester and say, I want to drop AP Calculus and go down into regular calc. We will not let you unless the teacher says, oh my gosh, this kid is just, this isn't the right placement for them, and everybody's on board. We will not allow them to do that also without making sure that you are aware of something along those lines taking place. But colleges will review the final transcript. There are stories, and we'll tell them a couple little horror stories about scholarships that get taken away or admissions that get revoked because the senior year turned out to be a disaster and it was clear that that student did not perform to their ability, and all kinds of crazy things can happen. So we will appropriately scare them, just so you know. But it's true. For students who are still trying to increase an ACT or SAT score 1 or 2 more times, or take it for the first time, there are some seniors who will be taking it in September for the first time. That's fine. It just doesn't give them a lot of time for additional testings. There's some September and October and November test dates. You have that in your packet. We'll talk to them about it. If they are trying to get in early to a school or get into an honors program or sometimes qualify for automatic merit scholarships, those are the ones that they get based on their GPA and their test scores. Typically, September is the last date that they have to submit scores in time for those deadlines. I will talk about Ohio State because so many of our kids apply there. I will talk about UC because so many of our kids apply there. But the rule kind of goes for a lot of other schools. November 1st is Ohio State's deadline to apply for if they are going to qualify for merit scholarships or the honors program. UC is December 1st. The application deadlines for both of those schools aren't until January or February. They can still apply. But if you have a child who has a really high GPA and high test scores and would qualify for money at either one of those schools, and they don't apply by November 1 or December 1, they can get in, but they will not qualify for any of that money. So it's crazy, and we drill them. We drill that into their heads when we talk to them tomorrow, but also we remind them. Those are also reminders that you would get on Twitter and Facebook and so on if you are still trying to decide if we're worth following. So those are the kinds of things that we'll talk about with the ACT. They're going to get the same handouts that you have tonight as well. So they will have that information. Also remember that colleges will only accept scores from the testing agencies. So only scores that come from ACT.org or College Board if it's the SAT. And when they register, and you guys should kind of know a lot of this already, or one of you knows this or whatever, but you can send 4 for free when you register. After that, if you send scores after the registration, after they've registered and taken the test, it's like $12.50 per score for ACT and College Board to just click a mouse and electronically send your score to a college. It's $12.50. So keep that in mind. So we kind of go through this little process. Get organized, okay? Get your resume updated in Naviance. Know your list of activities and extracurriculars, if you've had any special leadership positions, and so on. Get this stuff written out in advance. And as a parent, this is something that's really fair to help them get organized. Because you probably remember some of the things that they did or awards that they got more than they do. And remember, just 9 through 12, like student of the month in 4th grade, doesn't go on there, okay? But just 9 through 12, activities per grade, maybe awards won, leadership positions, those types of things. This is something really good to get out of the way beforehand, to do in advance so that it doesn't stall the process once they start, okay? Also, while I love my PowerPoint being photographed, we will post it online too, so you'll be able to download that. So I think Mrs. Brenner will be sending this out via
our next
outlets.
newsletter. Yes.
Our next newsletter. Oh, electronic newsletter. Okay, gotcha. Sorry, still trying to figure it all out. So to get organized, we tell them, make a calendar, stick it loud and proud on the refrigerator. They won't, okay, but you know we're telling them to, so that everybody has to look at it. Keep them on task. Don't nag them a lot early on or you'll lose them right away. Some gentle nudges, maybe make a few deals with them. It works. Step 2, give yourself and others time. This is a big deal. They're so used to on demand. I mean, whether it's the ATM, they don't even use those anymore. Now they just transfer it from phone to phone, that Venmo app. Have you heard of that? It's pretty awesome, but geez. Whatever it is, they're used to clicking and having it on demand, whether, Netflix, doesn't matter what it is. That does not apply to the college application process. We tell them they still need to give teachers, counselors, everybody, at least 3 weeks to turn around whatever it is they're asking for. Okay, letters of recommendation. One of the things that we tell them is typically in any high school, there's about 10 to 15 teachers who get all the requests for letters of recommendation. And so they're writing sometimes 10, 15, 20. How many did we have one teacher write?
30.
How many?
30.
30. Okay, Ms. Nimskern wrote 30 letters of recommendation last year. We gave her a prize at the end of the year, but I forget what it was. Maybe like a Starbucks coffee or something. I'm sure it was equal to the amount of time that she put into it. But these are the things that we tell them. So they're used to clicking, boom, done. But you also need to help them remember that, okay, November 1st is when you want everything at that school. You should have everything finished first week in October. Okay, if it's a December deadline, they have to factor in Thanksgiving break. That always catches a lot of kids if they're trying to have things finished by December 1st. That's a scary one. So just be aware, kind of coaching them on the side. We tell them that failure to plan on their part does not constitute an emergency on ours, a quote that we always heard and our parents told us. And they're like still trying to figure out what we're even talking about. But while we will do everything that we can when they haven't met the deadline, to make sure that their stuff gets delivered on time. Sometimes, each counselor has over 50 seniors, and some kids are applying to multiple schools. So we're running in a million different places until about December 15th. Keep it simple. Now, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later to you as parents, but we tell them, hey, it's time now. If you were going to thought you were going to apply to 15 schools, or you wanted to apply to that school because you wanted to wear the sweatshirt or whatever it is, like all the funny, goofy, silly reasons that you might have for having some schools on your list, now's time to get them off. The last thing you need in the college application process is any kind of clutter in your mind, in your heart, on your computer, on your applications. So now's the time. And like I said, we'll come back to that, but we definitely hit on that with them. Stay focused in the classroom. It's the number one thing. It's the number one thing. So while all these other things are going on, and while you're in the band and on a sports team and working on the weekends and doing whatever and worried about your future, you have to figure it out. You have to figure out how to stay focused in the classroom and not let that fall behind. Okay, so this is just a slide in their presentation, not necessarily the best of transitions here, but when we get to this point in their presentation, we start talking to them about, okay, all right, you're ready, you have your list, you've had some conversations with your parents, everybody's kind of on the same page, maybe not on the same page, but hopefully in the same chapter. And you're ready to roll. So now what do? So one of the things that we tell kids, and also keep in mind that our presentations and when we're talking to them, they are not just geared to the super motivated 4.0 and above students who are trying to go to really selective schools. When we're talking, we have everybody in front of us, and we are letting them know that if college is what you want to do, there is a place for you. And not every single application is going to take you 3 weeks to complete. Some applications will take 10 minutes. Literally take 10 minutes. Fill it out, type it in, swipe the credit card for the application fee, and off you go. Some applications will take weeks to get ready and think through some of those essays and get those letters of recommendation, and they should. But we kind of say, don't procrastinate because you think this isn't, this is just huge insurmountable process that will take and consume you for days and weeks. It won't. So everybody is going to apply to college online now. It's been probably in the last 3 or 4 years that almost all the paper application options are gone. I'm sure in some certain circumstances that can still happen, but it's all online, and they're going to either apply specifically on the college's website through their own specific application, or they're going to be applying via the Common App. Last year, the Common App had 580 colleges and universities on it. This year, they have 700. So they picked up another 100 plus schools as part of the Common App Consortium. We will go through and talk to the kids, about the Common App and what it is and how it works. Basically a one-stop shop. It's pretty involved. The bummer is some of the schools that were really easy and quick to apply to last year and before are now on the Common App. Bowling Green and Ohio University, they used their own applications up until this year, and now they're on the Common App as well. And it is just a little bit longer. They have to enter a lot of information. But some of it's just details, and then there's the essay that is part of the Common App. Colleges like it because it gives them a more holistic view of the student, because it does require more. Kids like it because in some ways it is a one-stop shop, but that's a little deceiving because a lot of schools do have their own specific supplemental part to the Common App. So if they're applying to a very selective school, maybe say one of the Ivy Leagues or Stanford or MIT or Duke or whatever, our kids apply all over the place. University of Virginia, it doesn't have to be an Ivy. They sometimes have an extra question or essay that they have to answer. It'll tell them that, but they need to be diligent and make sure that they're looking for these supplementals. Even though it's kind of a one-stop shop, they still have to pay for every single application. So they can't just start clicking every school and I'm going to apply to all 700 and see where it falls. Okay, so Typical application fees are $50 to about $95 per application, which is also funny because that hasn't gone down as it's gone electronic either. So it's just gone up. I guess you paid for convenience. So most of them, almost everybody sitting in here, if your kid's applying to college, most of them are going to have at least one school on their list that's going to be in the Common App. And they have to create a Common App account. Here's the thing, sort of a caveat to the parents. Do not create an account for them, and then they go on and create an account, and there's 2 accounts with that name and birthday and everything else, because it will cause, like, seriously, it's almost like, it's just a big deal. And things won't go, and you won't know they haven't gone, and then when it's almost too late, they'll find out because it's 2 accounts and whatever. So if you do create a Common App account because you want to see what it is, just make sure that you're like super fictitious, and you can create that and get in there and see it. You can also search Google and pretty much see everything that's on the Common App also. We've also given them this year's Common App 5 essay prompts with tips for writing good Common App essays. So those are the 5 choices for essays this year. So we'll talk to them about this. Don't create a practice account. The Common App essay prompts, they pick one. And for most schools, selective schools, they're a big deal, like a huge deal. If the school isn't all that selective, but it just happens to be a Common App school, the essays aren't as big of a deal. I will tell you that at Ohio State and UC, if they are qualified, if they have an ACT score of a 30 or above at Ohio State and a solid GPA of 4.0 and some good rigor, they have to still do the essay, but the essay isn't really coming into play. Same thing at UC. But at the more selective schools, where all the kids look the same on paper, the essays, the teacher letters of recommendation, their extracurriculars, that's where all those things become huge. So you can kind of calibrate, or they can kind of calibrate how important the essay really is. I wouldn't take any chances. Like, I would never stand up here and say to you as parents or to our students that the essay is not a big deal. But it's just more important in some instances than others. They have to adhere to the 650-word limit. It's kind of like a test. It's about communicating clearly and concisely, getting your point across, and using all the right grammar and blah, blah, blah. It's really, really what it is. And so that 650-word limit is like, not just like one in the class for English, where it's like, okay, we'll keep it under 1,000, and it's 1,200, and everybody's good. It has to be at 650 or less words. It's not easy to do, by the way, with the prompts that they're given. So we'll go through all that. Kind of covered this. Supplementals. Just make sure they know. And really, like I said, these come into play with the more selective schools. So if you know your kids are applying to UC, Ohio State, UK, and Miami, they're not going to have any supplementals. But if they're applying to Vanderbilt and they're throwing a couple other ones on there that tend to be a little bit more selective, they're probably going to have to do an additional essay or stuff. Okay? But the Common App will tell you all of that. When they list their schools, the Common App will state what have supplementals and what don't. So just for your viewing pleasure, very commonly applied to Ohio schools that our kids tend to look at, and they are all on the Common App. Like I said, a couple others just jumped on this year, which bummed us out because it was so easy for kids to apply to some of these schools that are now Common App schools, and so they really have to spend a lot more time. And actually, we have to spend a lot more time. The Common App schools counselor part is a lot more involved than other stuff as well. So we feel their pain. Just other popular. I just threw these up here just because it kind of broke up the presentation a little bit, but also so that you can just see some of the schools, Stanford and others, they're on the Common App. So, at Sycamore, we have such a wide range of where kids apply and where kids get in. And so we kind of see the entire nation every fall, basically, come across our desk. So here's the big part, okay? And this is what so it's really warm in here, and I'm gonna try to go quickly, because I can see, like, you guys are getting a little sweaty. I can see it because the light's coming right down on you, and I'm getting a little sweaty. If you're dozing a little bit, or just trying to get to dinner, this is worth noting right here. Once they have finished applying on the college website or the Common App, and they click submit and they pay, and everybody thinks it's done and it's a big, huge sigh of relief, that's like most of it. That's part 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5. But there's an additional part. And the only way that their documents from Sycamore High School and their letters of recommendation and everything else makes it to the college is after they apply, they have to go into their Naviance account. They know what that is. Some of you do too, but they know what that is. They've been in it since the 8th grade. They were in it last year several times because we made them, and we kept saying, next year, this is where you're gonna have to do your whole college application process, and blah, blah, blah. And they have schools listed, and if you have them log into their Naviance account, you might be a little surprised at stuff that they have listed and kind of how on the ball they might be. But they have to go into Naviance, and they have to request their transcript, and then they have to do this other thing, state that they've submitted. This blue sheet, help us help them. This blue sheet is 2-sided. And one side is how to request a letter of recommendation, and one side is how to request a transcript. Uh-oh, not 2-sided.
Not too good, right?
They're gonna bring these home from school tomorrow? And it will be 2-sided. We'll get it, don't worry. We'll have all of this posted. What you need to know is there is an additional step. They have to go into Naviance and they have to do this. It's like literally 5 clicks. But if they don't, it's not just like we want them to have to jump through, hoops. If they don't do that, it never hits their counselor's Naviance account. So your son or daughter could have sent in their applications 4 weeks ago, but they didn't do this, so I didn't know. So I haven't sent a transcript, I haven't sent any of the supporting documentation, I haven't done anything because they're not on my list. So what they and you as partner have to remember is that the college application process starts and ends in Naviance. It really does, because that's where they have been in for 3 years, and that's where they will actually finish their application. For those of you who are hearing it for the first time, it's just our college and career portal. We have test scores in there, we have all kinds of stuff in there. So you know, because some of you are very active in Naviance, and that's awesome. But the test scores that you see in there and some of their grades and some of those things are not always up to date. The college doesn't see any of that. The only thing that the college sees in Naviance is what we send them. Nobody else can see in their account. You, us, them. The college doesn't see it. So if you go in there and you're like, oh, that's not that shows that my son has a 26 on his ACT and he got a 29. We haven't received the disc yet from the testing agency. It hasn't been uploaded. It's fine. Don't freak out about it. That's not what gets sent. The only thing that gets sent is their transcript, letters of recommendation, and then our part of the Common App. So, the 3 things that have to happen in Naviance before your application is considered complete. They have to have their college list. They should have those. They should have those already, the list already there, but they might need to make some changes. We're going to talk to them about that tomorrow. Then they request a transcript, then they click on have you applied, and they do submit it. We have it all spelled out. We have it step by step. Mr. Mayor just showed me that he has the right ones back there, so on the way out you need to pick up a new blue one, and it'll be on. Got the second page. Thank you. And this is what we tell them. It's the only way we know. We don't have these freakish powers that the high school guidance counselors have on the TV sitcoms and stuff. We don't know that you're sitting at home and you just finished sweating and toiling over your application and you've submitted it, and the next morning you just feel it. So unless they do those things, we don't know. When they do those things, it shows up. When I come in the morning, and Mrs. Brenner, all the counselors, when we come in the morning, we log in, especially in the fall. This is what we're doing all day almost. We log in, okay, who applied? Okay, and sometimes the list has 4 kids who have applied, and sometimes it's, 25 applications were submitted last night, okay? And that's what we work off of. So just keep that in mind, and also share that with maybe friends of yours who have seniors and aren't here. Just make sure they look for that information. So this is another big one. Not all colleges require letters of recommendation. And here's what we tell the kids, and you have to help us with this. Don't ask a teacher for a letter of recommendation if you don't need it. Sometimes they just want to know, oh yeah, they would write it for me, and I want to hear these great things that they're going to say about me. Because nobody really ever agrees to write a letter of recommendation if it's not going to be awesome. And colleges know that as well. But some schools don't require any. Some require 2. Some won't take more than 1. All that information is there for them to find out with each college. Please, 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 do not have them request more than they need, because the teachers really take time to do this, and they write essays, letters of recommendation that aren't generic and that are anecdotal, and it's not something that just takes 10 minutes and they change the pronouns and the name of the college. So keep that in mind and help them understand that as well. We'll have a little bit more passionate conversation with them about it tomorrow. We also kind of give them a little bit of a protocol for requesting a letter of recommendation. Even though they eventually have to do it electronically, we ask them to stop by and see their teacher first and say, hey, I'm getting ready to do my college applications. You had me in the 9th grade and then again in the 11th grade, and you saw how I changed and grew and blah, blah, blah. Would you stop by, have that conversation before you send them that email through Naviance. And we also tell them teachers don't have to say yes. They don't. And it's a busy time of year. So treat it as a privilege, as a favor. It's not something that they are required or have to do. And then remember to thank them, and also remember to give them at least 3 weeks. So this is a big deal. You're going to hear a lot, or we hear a lot. Well, nobody ever told me. Nobody ever told me I had that in. You didn't tell us that in your presentation. Well, we're not going to tell you everything in our presentation. We'd be here for weeks. We will talk to them about knowing deadlines, about making a spreadsheet, about knowing early decision versus early action, special programs, scholarships, and so on and so forth. And for you, November 1st and December 1st are pretty significant. Some schools will say, if you apply before October 1st, we'll waive the application fee. There's all kinds of things going on right now in the college application process, and they usually don't tell us, the colleges. So we find out a lot of those kinds of things, like free applications and, who's letting you know within a week if you got in. We find out because it changes year to year, and we find out when our kids tell us. Okay? Unfortunately, there's not this big clearinghouse of all the changes in the application process that we have access to because it doesn't exist. But those are also the kinds of things that you can kind of help research and lay out for them, because you don't want to miss out on something. We talk to them about owning the process. One of the slides tomorrow that they see is it just says own the process. And we say, this is not your parents' responsibility. This is not your parents going off to college. Do not get mad at them. Do not get grumpy at them. Do not blame anybody but yourself if you miss a deadline, if you didn't do something correctly. You're big boys and girls, like I already said, getting ready to move away from home, spend thousands of dollars, work harder than you've ever worked, maybe have more fun than you've ever had. But it is your process. It is your responsibility. They will hear that from us tomorrow. They will not tell you that they've heard that. I mean, why would they, right? So keep in mind they're hearing it, but also keep in mind that maybe behind the scenes, there are some things that you also want to pay close attention to. Every fall, we have 50, 60, sometimes 70 colleges that come to Sycamore High School. The reps come and they want to talk to your kids. Kids sign up for these through Naviance. They've been doing it since last year. They know how to do it. They're excused from class. Sometimes the presentations are here. Sometimes they're real small, tiny little private schools, and there's maybe only 2 or 3 kids meeting with a rep, and we do that in the Post-Secondary Planning Center. That list is being created right now. It usually takes until second week in September maybe to have the full list. But colleges and universities know what Sycamore High School is. and they want to be here, and they want to get in front of your kids, and they want one last chance to talk to your kids about certain programs or their school. They know we're a very high-performing academic school. We're a very diverse student body. They know that our teachers are super uber qualified and that they are pushing these kids in ways that a lot of kids in other schools aren't. And so they bang on our door. We don't go after them. So just know that that list exists. Know that it's in Naviance, and you can take a look at it too to make sure that if you want them to hear one of these presentations, that where to find those. If you have questions about any of those college rep visits, Mr. Millette M at sycamoreschools.org, he runs that whole railroad. So if they tell you, hey, October 19th, it's a Wednesday, like seniors don't have to come to school on that day, they're not lying. It's real. They do not have to come to school on October 19th. It's the day that the sophomores and juniors take the PSAT, and freshmen are taking a different test, and we let the seniors have a college visit day, the whole day, where they can go out and visit a school. Now it's just one day, it's tucked in the middle of the week, so obviously it's not a great day for them to have to go far, but it's a great day for them to get out on the campus. They might have lived 20 minutes from UC their whole lives, and that's where they want to go, but they've never walked the campus. This is a day that we want them to get out and visit schools, walk the walk, talk the talk. We always tell them all the brochures and the websites have all the pretty people on the sunny days, right? So maybe you should go and see what it's all about. So that is a real thing, October 19th, and tomorrow we'll tell them, get online and schedule your visit. Talk to your parents, make sure you're allowed to go, depending on how far it is or what, if you're going to go with them, if you can be off work, whatever it is, and make those appointments now. Fall is a really busy time on college campuses for this type of thing. So a lot of times schools will only run so many tours on a given day. Most of the tours you can schedule straight from the website. They'll be like, visit the campus, and you click on it and there's a schedule, and you actually go and you plug yourselves in and you reserve yourself a spot. So we tell them to do it, but just so you know, that's how it works. If they don't have an online scheduling system, just call and get a spot reserved. One thing that I will add about that, just real quickly, especially depending on certain schools, there is something called demonstrated interest. And demonstrated interest is a college kind of keeps track of if kids send back postcards or come when they're in Cincinnati for a meeting with parents, and usually the more selective schools. Like, are they really demonstrating an interest? Do they really want to come to the school? Or are we just like a really good backup if they don't get into Yale? Okay? So, depending on the school, and don't drive yourself nuts about it. Like, seriously. Like, do not drive yourselves crazy about demonstrating. Like, oh my gosh, we never did any of those things, and now it's time. What's done is done. But sometimes they do look to see if kids have visited their campus. And again, this isn't Ohio State, this isn't UC, this isn't Xavier, this isn't NKU, it's not UK. It's not any of those schools. It's some of the more quirky, small, private, selective schools. I can tell you Denison is one of them. I had a girl several years ago when I was working at a different school, valedictorian, 35 on her ACT, unbelievable resume, and applied to a whole bunch of schools. And Denison was her backup school if she didn't get into any of these other more selective schools. She got into some of those selective schools and she didn't get into Denison. And we were just, we couldn't believe it. And so she came to my office and we called. And I actually had the dean of admissions on the phone, and he said the reason she didn't get in is because she never visited. And Ohio kids who apply to Denison and know that it's a really selected good school, but never really take the time to go there, they know there's probably not a real strong correlation that kid's going to go there. So what colleges and universities are always trying to do is guess their yield. They're trying to be as accurate as they can with the number of yes letters they send out to the number of kids that actually attend, say they want to attend. So for all different kinds of reasons, that's important on the college level. So they now use all kinds of analytics that are available to decide who they're going to offer letters to or yeses to and who they're not. So just something to think about. If if one of those schools is kind of still lingering out there. So October 10th, the meeting that will besides graduation this year, that will make you cry, is October 10th, Paying for College and the FAFSA meeting. So make sure you mark your calendars for that one. That's a winner. We actually have presenters for that night are from the university level financial aid office, and they come in and talk to you about the FAFSA, all the ins and outs, all kinds of crazy questions that you might have, not crazy in a disrespectful way, but everybody has like a bunch of questions about this, and how all of that works. So they're here that night, they present. They do not try to talk you into coming to that school. It's a service that financial aid offices offer to high schools. So October 10th, 6:30, right here. So a brief word about colleges and universities and how they communicate. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. Your son or daughter is going to submit an application. Click, pay, done on a Tuesday night. And Wednesday morning, they're going to get an email from the college saying, we have your application, but we still have not received your transcript, letters of recommendation, or other documentation that we need, which is really weird because from 9 o'clock at night when they submitted it until 6 o'clock the next morning, it's so weird that we didn't get all that stuff sent out. So just so you know, they have these like automatic emails that they just keep sending out based on when all the boxes aren't checked in your kid's electronic file. Sometimes they cross in cyberspace, most of the time. So when you get these notices back from the universities within 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks, don't panic. It's probably hasn't been downloaded yet. It might, maybe they didn't do their stuff at Naviance. You want to ask them that first. Give us a little time. We're pretty on the ball. But what you have to remember is sometimes when we send our stuff, you need to think of it as, even though it's electronic, you need to think of it as sometimes it's an envelope in a bin in their admissions office that hasn't been downloaded yet or opened. It's like an envelope that hasn't been opened. It's there, and then we'll call them on the phone, oh yeah, it's here, we just didn't download it yet. Okay, thanks. And meanwhile, the mom is mad at us, the dad is mad at us, the kid is mad at us, and we feel bad, and it was there all along. So just know that they have all these automatic emails that go out from time to time, and just wait till they get in and say they're going to go to a place. You've never had so much electronic and real mail in your life, and it's unbelievable. It's more than I ever told parents they would get. We're going to talk to your kids about social media and their social media accounts. Most of them are really cool with it. Social media has been around now so long that it's not such a big deal to them in terms of using it the wrong ways. But some kids might still be, but we're not the police of that. What we tell them is that it is true that some colleges and universities do go out and they know that in their application they're seeing the bright, shiny, straight-A student with awesome letters of recommendation. They know they're going to see the absolute best side of that student. Some schools will go out and search kids on social media. So we warn them, we tell them, it's up to them, but we also tell you. I mean, again, it's not something I would totally freak out about. And most kids use social media in the right ways now, but it's time to kind of clean that up. We talk to them about giving themselves a professional email address so they're not like baller23 at AOL.com anymore or something, like Bieber fan, whatever. Like, an email address that they're just going to use for their college applications. Something that's mature and businesslike and nice and clean and awesome. So those are things that we will go through with them tomorrow, but just food for thought for you as well. And then a final word. So those of us who do this, all of the counselors here, it's really great at some stage in the beginning to tell your kids, the world is your oyster. Well, the world is really not their oyster. And you know that, and they probably kind of know that, but maybe you've told them they can apply anywhere they want, and they can go anywhere they get in. But maybe you're banking on them not getting in, or you didn't know it was $67,000 a year at UNC Chapel Hill as an out-of-state student. So it's so much easier if you kind of put some boundaries or fences around this process now before they even get super emotionally invested in it. So if you know that you are not going to allow them to go to UCLA if they get in and whatever else, and you know that, or you're going to at least vote against it, it's a really good idea to have those conversations now, not after they get in and they're like dead set on it and they've bragged to all their friends and they've been like, you know, sleeping with a mascot stuffed animal and whatever. The more upfront, honest conversations you can have with your kids, and we would certainly never tell you how to parent, but we can tell you that it means a lot less tears in our office, and it means a lot less like hurt feelings and arguments later on. So if it's cut and dry, a lot of you it's like, they're going to UC, or they're going to Wright State, or they're going to whatever. Awesome. And you know they can get in, and they know they can get in, and that's where they want to go, and it's all easy. That's great. But some of you will have some really difficult situations, and then a lot of times sometimes like you'll call the counselor and be like, can you like call him down and just like don't tell him I called you. Do not say that if you tell him that, you know, and just tell him that that's not a really good school and that we've heard it all. Okay? So really you can save yourself headaches, heartaches, fights, stress by having those conversations up front and making things pretty clear. And then we all cross our fingers and we hope for the best. Lots of tears of joy, lots of tears of sadness, hugs, fist bumps, the whole bit. It's all a part of the next several months. If they are applying to very selective schools, they will not find out usually until late February or March. That is gut-wrenching because all their friends already know and everybody's already bought their matching bedspreads and they have their Facebook roommates and it's all done and they're still waiting to find out. So be ready for that as well. That's one of the, you know, things that they have to endure if those schools are on their list. So we're here. Most of us like email communication, not because we don't want to talk to you on the phone, but oftentimes we might be in a meeting, not one of Mr. Mater's, where we can kind of get back to you via email in the midst of the meeting, but we might not be checking our phones until later in the day or the next day or whatever. So reach out to us. If you feel really confused or if you just feel really worried about your son or daughter and where they are with this, and you feel most comfortable having a meeting with your child's counselor in our office, one-on-one, or with your kids and whatever, please email us and we will schedule a time for you to come in. Most of the time that doesn't have to happen, but we welcome it, and if it would just make you feel better, please do that. I'm trying to think, I think that Mr. Mater is going to come up and kind of close things out, and then we also have the PTO with a special presentation. But again, brace yourself. It's a great journey. Use it as an opportunity to have some really amazing conversations with your kids, and if you need us, we're here.